So yes, we are looking at Let's Decode the Label, Understanding the Nutrition Facts panel. It's wonderful to have you joining us, whether you're from the manufacturing sector, distributive trade, packaging industry, academia, consumer advocacy, or simply here as a consumer who wants to make smarter, healthier choices when shopping. Today's session continues on our series of online awareness sessions here at the BSJ. You may remember previous sessions like It's All in the Label and the Squeeze the Facts, both of those also looking at different aspects of labeling. Now we take the next step to decode the nutrition facts panel. That small but powerful box on our food packaging that gives us key information about what we want and about what we eat. Before we begin the presentations, let's go over a few simple guidelines to make sure today's session runs smoothly. Microphones. Please keep your microphones muted unless you're invited to speak. This helps us maintain clear audio throughout. Video. You're welcome to keep your cameras on if your internet connection allows, but please ensure your background is quiet and professional. If you'd like to ask a question or share a comment, please use the raise hand feature or certainly just drop a message in the chat. You can post your questions or your comments there. We'll collect them for the question and answer segment at the end, and some of our technical personnel from our chemistry branch will seek to answer some of these during the session. Please note that this session is being recorded for educational and public awareness purposes. It will be uploaded to the BSJ's website, and you will be able to come again to see this recording at your leisure. Notwithstanding, we want you to stay with us this morning to engage with us as we have this discussion. We'll have one presentation by two presenters, followed by what we hope will be an interactive question and answer session. We want it to be lively, respectful, and engaging. We want all of us together to learn. Now, let me set the context. Nutrition labeling is not just about compliance with standards. No. Really and truly, it's about empowering our consumers. More and more, as we go to the supermarkets, as we go to the stores seeking to make our purchases, having become a very health conscious community, persons are looking at the nutrition facts panel. When we understand what's in our food, we can make informed choices that support good health, responsible consumption, and even drive manufacturers to improve product quality. Today's session will help us understand what the nutrition facts panel tells us, how to interpret the information accurately, and why this transparency benefits both producers and consumers. I'm very pleased, most delighted to have with me two of my colleagues from the Bureau of Standards Jamaica who work in the chemistry branch. They will guide us through today's session. Our first presenter is Ms. Venice James. She's an analyst in the industrial unit of the chemistry branch here at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica. She has a first degree, yes, a Bachelor of Science, with a major in food chemistry. So she comes to us with quite some experience. She will take us through some key terms seen on the Nutrition Facts panel, and then introduce the whole concept of servings per containers. Trust me, I have been learning quite a bit over the last few weeks. I've engaged with Venice and Matthew. Our second presenter will be Mr. Matthew Fitzgerald Richards, an analyst in the foods unit of the BSJ's chemistry branch. Yes, we don't just have a big chemistry branch, we have different units. And here we have representatives from the industrial and from the food unit. Matthew has a Bachelor of Science in Applied Chemistry. This is what you call bright people. Know me? didn't even do chemistry up to grade 9. And he has a minor in general chemistry. That a double bright. He will continue the discussion and both of them together will respond to questions after the presentation. So, are we ready to understand what's in our foods? Are we ready to understand the nutrition facts panel? Let's begin. Please join me in welcoming Miss Venice James as she presents. Venice, over to you. One camera, unmute, and it's yours. Make her welcome as she comes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for all being here today. And thank you, Mr. Ling, for that wonderful introduction. So as Mr. Ling said, today my colleague Matthew and I, we will be discussing the nutrition facts panel and how to properly interpret it, all right? One second. Okay, so before we get into the meat of the matter, I have 2 introductory questions and you can indicate your answers below. One is true or false and the other is a multiple choice question. So the first question is, it's actually a statement and it goes, nutrition facts panel is mandatory in Jamaica for pre-packaged foods. Is this true or is this false? Please indicate in the chat below and I will be observing. Our second question is, which option lists the correct group of macronutrients? Is it option A, calcium, fats, and protein? Is it B, protein, calcium, carbohydrates? C, fats, protein, carbohydrates? Or is it D, fats, calcium, and carbohydrates? So I'll just give you guys 1 minute to answer.
And in the chat,
Okay.
we are seeing several responses. We're seeing good morning, we're seeing false, we're seeing C, well, for the second one, we're seeing true, we're seeing C for the second question. Nadine says a bright good morning to us. C is coming up as the multiple response here. So it look like we have a bright audience saying C, protein, fats, and carbs. I seeing C. We have an entire ocean. I am seeing true for the first question. So back to you, Venice.
Okay, so question number 1. If you answered false, you are in fact correct. So nutrition facts panel is not mandatory in Jamaica for prepackaged food. However, it is recommended because it lets the consumer know exactly what they're consuming, what exactly they're taking into their body, and how these nutrients, micro and macro, are contributing to their overall diet. And if you're a manufacturer, for example, and you're thinking about exporting, it's actually mandatory in the US, Canada, and the UK market. So although it's not mandatory, it is recommended. For question 2, the correct answer is in fact C. So our macronutrients would be protein, fats, and or carbohydrates. And they're called macro essentially because we need them in larger quantities in our body, okay? So here I have a list of objectives for today's session. So we're going to explain key terms associated with nutrition facts panel. We're going to understand the key elements of a nutrition facts panel, including terms such as calories and daily value percentages for the different nutrients that are listed on our nutrition facts panel. We are also going to apply knowledge of serving size and daily values to manage our dietary intake and to make healthier food choices. We're going to highlight the nutritional impact of common packaged foods that we typically consume in Jamaica, and we're promoting the accountability of food manufacturers to provide accurate information on their product labeling. So this gives a list of the key terms that we will be discussing today. We're going to start off with gross weight, and then that will be followed by net weight, drained weight, serving size, servings per container, amount per serving, and then finally percent daily value. So we're gonna start first with gross weight. So the word gross actually comes from the French and Latin origin, and it actually means large. The gross weight can be defined as the mass of the entire pre-packaged foods. So it would include the weight of the food itself, whatever is inside our container, whether our container is a can or a Tetra Pak container or a plastic bag, it doesn't matter. It includes the weight of the food itself plus the packaging container. So in other words, the gross weight is equal to the net weight plus the weight of the packaging material. If we use a popular Jamaica staple as an example, Vienna sausage, this is something that is consumed pretty often. The gross weight for a can of Vienna sausage would include the weight of the can itself, plus the sausages, all of them that are found in the product, as well as the brine that is found in the can. All right. So gross weight is equal to the net weight plus the weight of the packaging material. And net weight would have been a new term. So now we're going to move on to net weight and define and understand what exactly we mean when we speak about net weight. So the net weight essentially is the weight of all the food content that we have in our packaged food product. So it would include the weight of any solid or liquid food, or even both, like for Vienna sausage, for example, that is present. And it excludes the weight of the packaging material. So it's only the weight of food, it's only the weight of, it's only the weight. I think somebody has their mic open. Okay. So the net weight is essentially the weight of our food content only minus the weight of our packaging material. So on the screen, we have corned beef as an example. So the net weight of this prepackaged corned beef would be the weight of the corned beef food that's consumed only, and not the weight of the corned beef plus the can plus the key. Okay. So we can think of gross weight and net weight similar to the way in which we speak about net salary or gross salary. Or gross salary would include our entire salary before any taxation or any tax is removed. So everything for our gross weight. So packaging material plus all the food, solid or liquid. But our net weight would include what is left or what's remaining after something has been removed. In the case for our net salary, it would be our salary that remains after our taxes are removed. So in this case, our net weight is essentially the weight of the food itself after remove the weight of the packaging material. So we'll move on to drained weight. So drained weight is applicable to foods that are packaged in which there is a solid and a liquid portion. Drained, as the name suggests, would be the weight of the solid food after the liquid portion has been removed. Drained weight would be applicable to products such as canned ackee in brine. In that case, the drained weight would be only the total weight of the ackee arrows, which is the fleshy portion that's consumed. For tuna, for example, tuna is typically canned in brine. So if drain weight is indicated on a tuna packaging, it would essentially be the weight of the tuna fish itself and not the weight of the tuna fish plus the brine. So serving size is the next term that we're going to look at. The serving size is essentially the quantity of our prepackaged food that is customarily eaten in one sitting. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to follow the serving size that's indicated on the product label, but it is just an indication of the amount of food that's typically eaten in one sitting, and everything that follows, whether it's the calories or the macronutrients and micronutrients, it's all based on the serving size. So it's important to note that on our nutrition facts panel. It's also important to note that this is something that's determined by the manufacturer. So the manufacturer will decide what the serving size for a particular food product is. So as I stated a while ago, it's important in interpreting the amount per serving and the percent daily values. And these would find On the lower part of our nutrition facts panel, they basically indicate the amount of nutrients and how much they contribute to the body based on the current daily values for that specific nutrient. So we have an example of a serving size for a can of Vienna sausage. This one states that the serving size is 4 sausages or 60 grams of the product. For solid foods, we may see our serving size being indicated in units such as grams or kilograms, ounces sometimes, as well as cup, teaspoon, tablespoon, or even pound. For our liquid product, we may also see the individual number of items, for example, for biscuits or for some chips or for cookies, even slices of bread, products like that. You may have an indication of the number of items that basically represents one serving or the serving size of the product. Or proportion as well. This is popular for some mackerel in tomato sauce. You may see the serving size being indicated as half a can. On the other hand, for our liquid foods, we may see units such as milliliter, liter, fluid ounce, cup as well, teaspoon, tablespoon, or even pint. We have a nutrition facts panel for fruit juice on the left. As you can see, the serving size is 8 fluid ounce, and that would be equivalent to 240 milliliters of the product. So servings per container. The servings per container is essentially the amount of servings that we can get per container. So as the name suggests, so in order to determine the servings per container, we have to pay attention to the net weight of the product and also the serving size. So for example, if you have a product and the net weight is 120 grams and one serving constitutes 40 grams, then our servings per container would be 3. In order to get that 3, you would basically see 120 grams divided by 40, and that would be 3. In some cases, the serving size and the net weight or volume, we may have multiple units representing these. So for lime juice, for example, we have that the net weight is 250 milliliters. This is equivalent to 8.45 fluid ounce. The serving size, however, is indicated in milliliters. It's 5 milliliters. So when we're determining our servings per container, we have to use the same units when we're doing our calculation. So we have to say 250 divided by 5, which would give you 50. So we do not say 250, we do not say 8.45 fluid ounce divided by 5, since we would be performing calculation with 2 different units. We have to ensure that units are the same essentially. So it's 250 milliliters divided by 5. And that's how we calculate our servings per container. In some cases, the servings per container may not be a whole number. We can look at the mackerel in tomato sauce, for example. Our net weight is 155 grams. Our serving size is half a can, which is equivalent to 78 grams. So again, to calculate our servings per container, it would be 150 divided by 78, which would give us 1.9. So we'll just round that to 2. So you may see about 2 on your uncertain nutrition label. Here we have another example of a Vienna sausage. So we have for serving about 2 servings per container. We have a chocolate chip cookie on our left, and it says 4 servings per container. So just a recap of the terms that we've learned so far. We spoke about gross weight, spoke about net weight. We went through drained weight, serving size, and servings per container. So the gross weight, as the name suggests, it's everything. It's a mass of everything. It's a mass of the container that the product is displayed in the supermarket in. It could be a can or a bag, plus the mass of whatever food is inside the product. While the net weight is the weight remaining after we have removed the weight of our container. So it's only the weight of our whatever food material, whether solid, liquid, or both that we have. The drained weight is only the weight of the solid portion of the food after we have removed any liquid that is present. The serving size is indicated by the manufacturer, and it is the amount or the quantity of the food that is typically eaten in one sitting, and the amount per serving we would calculate based on our net weight or net volume and our serving size by simple division. So Matthew is gonna pick up on with amount per serving. So Matthew, on to you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Venice. So I will be taking you through this portion of the presentation. So here we're looking at amount per serving. So the amount per serving is the quantity of the different nutrients in one serving of your product. So here we have an example. So the serving size here is 1 tablespoon. And so the amount per serving here would be the amount of the different nutrients that is found in this 1 tablespoon of your product. Yes. So how do we get these figures, these amount per serving figures that we see? So we can conduct nutritional analysis. So that's where you go and you submit your products to a reputable lab, and they conduct tests and they produce a report. And sometimes they can produce a fax panel like us. We produce fax panels. So the amount of nutrients, macro and micro, are determined from nutritional analysis and based on calculations from chemical tests. So you know that in Jamaica, or as you probably would have learned earlier in the presentation from a colleague, so fax panels aren't mandatory. So you can also do calculation-driven analysis to get some estimations of what is in your product, right? So here we have macro and micronutrients. So macronutrients are just nutrients required in larger amounts for normal bodily functions. And on your fax panels, you would notice your macronutrients, they are expressed in the unit of grams. And just a list here, these are your fats, your proteins, and your carbohydrates. While now micronutrients, these nutrients, they are required by the body in smaller portions for normal bodily function. And you just want to note, although they're required in smaller portion, they are just as necessary as your macronutrients, just that you need them in smaller dosage, right? And on the fax panel, you'll see where the units, they are expressed in milligrams or micrograms on your fax panel. Okay, so just want to get you the idea of what is the amount per serving. So if you look above your calories here, where the arrow is pointing, you can see it says amount per serving, right? And then when you look further up now, you see that the serving size right here is 2 cookies or 50 grams, okay? So what this is saying is that in 2 cookies, you will have 220 calories gained from 2 cookies. What are calories though? Calories are a unit of energy commonly used to measure the energy output of a food. So basically, how much energy a food would give you when you consume it. That's what a food calorie is. And it is dependent on your fats, your carbs, and your protein contributions, with fats being the most significant contributor to calories. So that's why you'd find that high fatty foods are also high in calories, right? So here it is saying again, so the 2 cookies, they are giving you 220 calories per serving, right? So now moving on to the fat portion. So similarly here, it's saying the total fat in a serving of these cookies, which would be 2 cookies or 50 grams of cookies. So that would give you a total fat of 12 grams and a saturated fat of 4.5 grams. So again, 2 cookies contains a total fat of 12 grams, and that same 2 cookies would contain 4.5 grams of saturated fat. And I just want to make note here. So the fat, so why saturated fat is important, because though it is inconclusive, studies are inconclusive, they are viewed as being unhealthy. And although the studies are inconclusive, people might look at that and say they don't want that to be eaten out of saturated fat, right? And that is really the power of the nutrition facts panel, so that it empowers consumers and give them the choice to decide on their own, what they want to consume. On the other hand, now, trans fat, this one is known to actually increase bad cholesterol and lower good cholesterol in the body. So it's also a problematic um, nutrient. So you just something you want to keep your eye on right there. Other nutrients that the FDA would tell you to pay attention to include cholesterol, your sodium, and your added sugars. So that's just something to know. Okay, so here we're going to some of the other nutrients on your facts panel. Here we have sodium, we have carbohydrates, we have dietary fiber, and we have total sugars. So on this particular facts panel, the serving size is 11 fluid ounces or 325 mils, and it is a product with 1 serving in the container. So that means your one container, you drink everything one time, right? And it is saying now, in 11 fluid ounces, it contains 160 milligrams of sodium. So that's the amount per serving for sodium. And in the same 11 fluid ounces, you have 15 grams of total carbohydrates, 2 grams of dietary fiber, and 1 gram of total sugars. Okay, so we're moving on to our percent daily value. And before we get into our percent daily value, I just want to have you take a look here at the current daily values for some nutrients. And the daily value, what is the daily value? The daily value is basically the FDA recommendation for the daily amount of a nutrient that you should consume, or in case of bad, quote unquote, bad nutrients, you should not exceed in a single day. And this recommendation is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. Why 2,000 calorie diet? Well, so this was determined by the FDA to be the standard daily caloric intake requirement for healthy adults to function properly. And of course, how many calories you need a day would be, if it's for like a specific person, it would be dependent on your age, your weight, your gender, and also probably most importantly your activity level. So you may actually need more than that 2,000 calorie diet. So FDA is the Food and Drug Administration in the USA. Yeah. So based on that, you may need more or less than that 2,000 recommended calorie diet. So here we have that potassium as a current daily value of 4,700 milligrams. Sodium has one of 2,300 milligrams, calcium 1,300 milligrams, vitamin C 90 milligrams, saturated fat 20 grams, and also iron 18 milligrams. Okay, so how do you get our percent daily value now? So I showed you the daily value in the previous slide, and we also went through amount per serving just now. So essentially your percent daily value is the percent of a specific nutrient that is attained from consuming one serving of your product, right? So based on your amount per serving, you would do some simple maths. So you put your amount per serving over your recommended daily value that's defined by the FDA, and then you would get a percentage, and that would be your percentage daily value, right? And just want to note it's dependent on the daily requirement for each specific nutrient. So for potassium, as in the previous slide, we know that was 4,700 milligrams. So your percent daily value would be the percentage of that in your product, right? So here we actually have an example. So if the daily value for a certain nutrient is 300 milligrams, for instance, and a packaged food has 30 milligrams in one serving of your product, then your percent daily value for that nutrient in the serving of a product would be 10%. So yeah, simple maths. And yeah. So another example here, right? So on this facts panel, we have a pack of crackers, and the serving size for these crackers is 2 crackers or 14 grams. And here, the amount per serving says that 2 crackers will give me 50 calories, and it will also give me 100 milligrams of sodium, which would be, when you look to your right, look at the arrow, you'll see that that is 4% of your percent daily value. So here we have some more examples, some more calculations. So uh, so again, it's based on your serving size and the current daily value for each nutrient. Here, the example, our serving size is 50 grams. And if you look at the third column, for sodium, the amount per serving is 65 milligrams in that 50-gram serving of whatever product you have. And we know that the daily value for sodium is 2,300 milligrams. So it just be 65 over 2,300 milligrams, and you find the percentage of that, and that's what you will get as your percent daily value. Although to note, there might be a little variation in like how you round up and how you round down your percent daily value, but that's all determined and like defined in FDA guidelines. So you can always just um look that up and have that as a guide to see how you should round, and that would account for whatever errors in your calculations. So another thing that the percent daily value does, it gives you an idea if the nutrient in this product, in this serving of this product, is considered as low, or if it is considered as high. So if you find that on your facts panel, it has a 5% or less daily value, percent daily value of a nutrient, it is considered as low, right? And if you have a daily value percent of 20% or more, it is considered high. And this is also important if you want to have like label claims. You want to say, hey, my product is a significant source of vitamin D or vitamin A or whatever. You would have to be able to, show that it is above 20% or above to, to be able to even make that claim. There's also like an in-between area. So if it's between 10% and 19% daily value, it would be considered a good source of whatever nutrient. So for instance, I just want to point out, so the FDA, Food and Drug Administration in the United States, so they recommend that you lessen your sodium intake, your saturated fat intake, and your added sugar intake. So you would generally, if you're trying to be healthy, you would look for products that have those less than your 5% daily value. But like for nutrients that are considered, more healthy and more good for your well-being, that those are like the potassium, vitamin D, calcium, iron, your dietary fiber, you would want it to be, higher. So the 20% or more. Yeah. So here right here, we're just bringing your attention to the statement at the bottom of the nutrition facts panel, where it says the percent daily value tells you how much a nutrient in a serving of food contributes to a daily diet. 2,000 calories a day is used for the general nutrition advice. So I just wanted to, point that out. So it's the same 2,000 calorie diet. That's what it's based on. That's what everything is based on. And here we have a different type of fax panel, different like display of fax panel. So it doesn't have to be in the rectangular shape that we know that most fax panel are in. So yeah, so this is a different version of okay, so here we have a comparison of two different fax panels. So, based on your specific requirements, so it would vary based on your age, sex. Yeah, sorry about that. So based on your specific requirements, yeah, it would vary based on your age, your sex, your occupation, your health condition. So for instance, the requirements of a nursing mother would be different from the requirements of that of an athlete or that of a sedentary worker, as such as an office administrator. So everybody's nutrition requirements would be different. Everybody's nutrition requirements would be different. So that's something to take note of. So here we have two different fax panels. We have a seasoned chicken burger and we have a seasoned beef burger. And here we can actually compare, a side by side and look at the we can look at the at-risk nutrients, and we can look at the nutrients that we look out for and to say this is probably a healthier product, or so for instance, on the seasoned beef burger, if we look at the total fat, we see that it is 13 grams with a daily value of 17%. And when we look at the seasoned chicken burger, we see that the fat is a little lower at 8 grams and 10% daily value. But if we look at now the saturated fat, so in the seasoned beef burger, that's the one on the right, it is 8 grams of saturated fat, and the percent daily value there is 40%. So that's over your 20% threshold. So that's a significant source of saturated fat, and you don't really want, if you're health conscious, you don't really want to be taking in that much saturated fat in the day. So that's something for you to consider. Another thing here, so we see where the cholesterol for the seasoned beef burger is 60 milligrams, and the percent daily value right here is 20%. So that's a significant source of cholesterol, and that's also another nutrient that you want to pay keen attention to. So here I just want to bring your attention to the drain weight. So here our nutrition facts panel. So this is just an example where it is based on the drain weight of your sample. So the serving size is 1 can drain, which would be 113 grams in this case. So any product that you would not like consume the brine. So for instance, we have canned ackee for whoever eats canned ackee, and we have tuna and those type of products. Where you can have you would likely drain off whatever liquid you have. So it is based on your serving size, your amount per serving. Everything is based on your drain weight. And you also have some products where you have actually both the net weight and the drain weight. So they're giving an option if you eat it with the brine or with the liquid, you can know your nutrient intake there. And if you rather it without, you can know it as well. So that's it. Okay. So here we just want to look at the sections of the nutrition facts panel. So at number 1, in the blue highlighted area, we have our serving information. So we have our amount per serving. So here we have 4 servings per container, and the serving size is 1 cup or 227 grams. And then at number 2, we have our caloric information. So this is the amount of calories per serving. So here we have this particular product has 280 calories per serving. And I wanted to recall that your calories is dependent upon your fat, your carbohydrates, and your protein in your product. So we do a calculation based on that, and we determine your calories. And then number 3, now we have all of your nutrients expressed on your facts panel, and the amount per serving right beside your nutrients. And then or for number 4, we have our percent daily value. So again, 5% or less would be considered low, and 20% or more would be considered high. So in this particular facts panel, the sodium, for instance, at 37% would be considered high because it's above 20%. Your sat fat, 23%, are considered high as well. And your vitamin D, for instance, so you have 0 micrograms of vitamin D or 0%. So that would be considered low, of course. So this isn't a good source of vitamin D, but it is a high source of sodium and trans fat. I mean, saturated fat. So here we also have facts panel. They can be shown in different ways. So here we just have one example of a dual column label where it's giving you the amount per serving in one column and then the amount per container in another column. So if a case where say you have probably a cereal and you want to the serving size for the cereal is 2 servings per container, and they say 1 cup is 255 grams, right? But you wanted to eat a whole container for whatever reason, so they also provide the servings per container in this one. So we have the amount per serving here, and we have the amount per container. Okay, so now I will be handing back over to Venice to do a summary of the concepts.
Thank you, Matthew. I do hope everyone has learned a lot. So just to go over the concepts that we have gone through this morning, we spoke about gross weight, which is the total weight of the packaged food products. It includes the weight of the packaging material, whether it's a can, a plastic bag, a Tetra Pak container, whatever it is, plus the food that's actually inside the container. We spoke about net weight, which is the weight of whatever food that we have inside the container. So the net weight would exclude the weight of the packaging material. Drained weight, which is the weight of the solid portion of the food that's remaining after we have removed any liquid that's present. Serving size, this is something that's decided by the manufacturer, and it is the amount of the product that's typically eaten in one sitting. Serving size for a chocolate chip, for a prepackaged chocolate chip cookie, for example, it may be 2 cookies. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to eat 2. You can eat the entire bag if you want to, but the serving size, yeah. Servings per container, this is something that would calculate based on the serving size that's indicated by the manufacturer and also the net weight. So it's a net weight divided by the serving size, and it's essentially the amount of servings that can be taken from the entire prepackaged food item. The amount per serving is determined from nutritional analysis that would be conducted at the chemistry branch, and it is the total amount of the different nutrients. So that includes our macronutrients, such as our carbohydrates, our protein, and our fat, as well as our micronutrients, such as our vitamins, our minerals that are present in one serving of the food. Our percent daily value is based on our amount per serving and also our serving size. And as well, it's determined from nutritional analysis and based on calculations that we would perform at chemistry. So it's important for manufacturers, be responsible and be accurate with the information that they present on their product label so that consumers can make the best decisions for themselves. So in order to submit samples for nutritional analysis, this is just a general overview of the process. So you may contact the BSJ and ask to speak with a representative from the chemistry branch, and then you would indicate the sample of interest or the parameters, in other words, the tests that are required or requested. So after then, we'll provide you with an email address and to which a request will be sent for a pro forma invoice for the parameters of interest, which are the tests that you are interested in. And this email that will be sent will include the client name, the name of the establishment, an address, telephone number, the number of samples, the type of samples, as well as the parameters of interest. So after the pro forma invoice is generated, it will be approved and sent to the client. The client will then submit the samples to customer service at the BSJ and will be guided at customer service as it relates to payment and the completion of a service contract agreement. A job number will then be generated and the samples submitted to the chemistry branch by a customer service representative. We will then perform nutritional analysis on the products, followed by any data calculation that may be necessary. The data will then go through a review process and a report will be generated for the jobs. The report is approved by the manager or an authorized personnel, and it is issued to the client via email by the manager or to customer service as a printed copy for collection by the client. Our typical turnaround time is 21 days. However, jobs may be expedited if requested and wherever possible. So there are some special requirements and recommendations to consider when submitting samples to the BSG for nutritional analysis, and Matthew will walk us through each of these.
Yes, thank you, Venice. So some special requirements. So if we are to be testing for vitamin C, for instance, we would need for the sample to be submitted in a opaque container, and to be kept chill. So this is because vitamin C is degraded in sunlight and heat, in the presence of heat. So we'd need it to be kept chilled and to be away from sunlight. And we also require that you submit duplicate samples when submitting for vitamin C analysis. So the net weight or the net volume or the drained weight, whichever is applicable, must be provided when submitting samples at customer service. So, of course, it's your product, so you would know your net weight, your net volume, or your drain weight, and you will also know your serving size. So all these would be needed to create a nutrition facts panel. Also, we would like for you to tell us if you added sugar to the product. So if you added sugar, that would also be a portion on the facts panel, right under total sugars, added sugars. So if you added sugar, we would also need to know how much sugar you added to your product. That's also a thing that comes under the facts panel guideline. So also sample submitted should be properly labeled. Any details such as manufacturer date, expiration date, batch number, and any other product code should be legible. Yes. And if you're having problems with your labels, you just come to our packaging department and they can assist with that. So if the sample is to be exported, the trans fat and cholesterol are required under your nutrition analysis. So because in our local market, it is not mandatory to do a nutrition facts panel. So you wouldn't necessarily need to go the lengths to do every single nutrient on your facts panel label. But if you are going into different markets, you would need to, research the market, research the requirements. If you're going to the US, for instance, you would need the full suite of testing. So that includes your trans fat testing and your cholesterol testing and whichever other nutrients that is specified. Okay, so the minimum sample quantity for solid foods is 200 grams or 7 ounces. And the minimum sample quantity for liquid foods is 250 mils or 8.5 fluid ounces. Okay, so we have a pop quiz. So chocolate chip cookie nutrition facts panel displayed the following information. The number of serving is 2. The serving size is 4 cookies, and the calories per serving is 300 calories. So how many calories would you receive from eating 8 cookies? You can type your answer in the chat.
I'm seeing the responses.
Yeah, seems so. Okay, I'm seeing some responses. I'm seeing 600, I'm seeing 1200 calories, I'm seeing 300 calories. So the answer is 600 calories. Because remember, the number of servings is 2 servings. So you have 2 servings in this container, right? But the serving size is 4 cookies. So that means the manufacturer is saying that in any one serving, you are supposed to eat 4 cookies, right? And you have 2 servings. So 2 times 4. So you have 8 cookies in the entire product, right? And now that it's saying that in 4 cookies, you have 300 calories. So that means that if you should eat the other 4 cookies, you get same 300 calories. So 300 plus 300, 600 calories. So the answer is 600. Congrats to both of you. What three nutrients determine the calorie content of food? So this is an easy one. What three nutrients determine the calorie content of food? Yes, so I seen some answers in the chat and it looks like everyone is correct. So that would be your fat, your protein, and your carbohydrates. So those are your contributors to your calories. So good job. And here are some of our references. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for having us, everyone. I think there was a question in the chat. We'll just respond to it. So someone was asking concerning the amount of fat in a product, how would saturated fat and trans fat differ, and also how would these be determined? So saturated fat and trans fat, they would differ rather in their structure, like their structural makeup. I don't want to get too scientific, but saturated fat, they wouldn't have any, let me not do that. But okay, so saturated fat and trans fat, they differ in their structures, right? And saturated fat is like like solid forms of fat. They're normally solid fats, right? So like the thought is that because they're solid, they would clog up your arteries and in time give you heart complications. But of course, as I said earlier, it's inconclusive. So you know, yeah, that just a point to note right there. And how it's determined by GC analysis. So that's gas chromatography. So we would do the analysis and then we would get the amount of saturated fat in the product and the amount of trans fat in the product by GC analysis. And another person asks which agencies provide services for determining nutritional facts of a product. Oh, so it was answered.
That's the
Okay.
okay.
And that's the Bureau standards. We do nutritional facts determination analysis. So I think
So
that's it.
thank you, Venice. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. I think many of us have learned a lot. I can speak for myself. Even as I sat with you over the last few days, I have been learning a lot. We do have some questions. There are a few more questions. I'm going to ask you just to check the chat. And we have a raised hand from Anita Williams, and we invite Anita to go ahead with her question.
Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, thanks to Miss James and Mr. Richards. Now I kind of have few questions, so I don't know if I want to run through everything and then you pick it up. But then I realized that Miss James kept after she spoke about the serving size, she was saying that you still can eat what you want to eat. Now, one of my challenge with that is at my age, I have now have to be reading the serving size to know that I don't need to eat the entire pack of crackers. And I realized that one of the things I know it's me, this webinar is mostly for manufacturers, but I'm thinking that at least if we are sensitized to understand that we need to pay attention because it's very important to pay attention to the serving size so you don't overindulge, you don't overeat. So I'm just thinking because you pointed it out, say yes, you can eat 2 cookies, but if you want, you can really eat 4. However, there is a negative to that. And as a manufacturer, would need to know, all right, then pay attention to that. So you could even start manufacturing in batches of, say the serving size is supposed to be 2. Instead of putting 4 in it, then you make it for 2. So that would cut back on costs. And then persons will be able to intake what they need to. You also, I
Anita,
noticed, yeah,
if I might just respond to you very quickly, and I
go
think
ahead,
that's a very good point,
go
but then
ahead.
there might be a cost factor per item for production. But can you tell me how many calories are in your 2 crackers alone from your tough crackers? Jamaican people love them tough crackers with tea. I wonder, and I mean, there's several brands of tough crackers out there. But when you're drinking your tea, how many tough crackers you have?
Give me a minute. I'm trying to get the crackers. I can no longer eat puff crackers. I was actually told to eat the Miss Birdie crackers. I'm just asking my colleague to pass it to me.
All right.
So
All
in the
right.
Miss Birdie crackers, the serving size is 9. And when the nutritionist told me that I need to start eating 9 crackers, the first thing in my brain is, who eats 9 crackers? But then I realized that after I start eating the 9 crackers, then it made sense. So the calorie intake in the Miss Birdie crackers is actually 120.
All right. And I see you're promoting a particular product,
No,
and
I am
we
not. It's not a promotion. I'm just telling. I used to like the cinnamon tough crackers. However, the nutritionist says it's not healthy. It has in too much sugar.
right.
Right.
And this morning as I prepared for the session, there I went into my cupboard, and when I look at my Tough Crackers package, 2 crackers, the serving size is 2 crackers. That's 14 grams or zero point 0.5 ounce. You know how many calories that? 50. Now, when I eat 6 or 8 tough crackers at one time with my tea, I'm putting on, multiply that by how many? By 50. And boy, so I understand the challenge. I understand the challenge, Anita. But we take the point, we're presenting the information, and consumers are here as well. So consumers do have a responsibility to make wise choices. We are presenting the information in the hope that they will do. You have another point, so please go on to that. And I also acknowledge Nadine Campbell, and we will come to you as well.
All right. So I also noticed that I love the part that you're able to break down the different amount for the saturated fat and these things, but I realized that you did not speak about the sugar. But then in the end, when you asked a question about I think the calorie intake, and then you spoke about the protein, fat, and carbs. I was wondering if that's why no mention of sugar, because now I realize, because of my new relationship with my nutritionist, sugar is in everything. Sugar is in everything. I know as a manufacturer, do I or would I? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation. So that's a plug for JBDC. So when I'm
Our
speaking,
partners.
right, when I say plug, I mean for the participants.
Uh,
So when you're speaking to a manufacturer or a client, you can say, okay, then are you able to substitute sugar with something else? So I'm just asking if there's a reason why sugar was not made mention of.
Matthew, can you respond to that question? Did we speak to sugars?
So, well, for the sugars portion, so I had actually made mention to the added sugars being like one of the risk nutrients to pay attention to. Uh, yes, so there most products would have sugars in some way or form, and it's important to take a note of how much sugar, especially in your drinks, your soft drinks. They have a lot of sugar. So it's important to take note of your sugar as well.
All right, but I'm just saying because even with the slides, there wasn't the list that you gave, there was no sugar in it. But as I said, yes, pay attention. I
All
have
right,
two
so we
last
take note of
things.
that and we will bear that in mind
Right.
for future presentations.
Thank you so much. I have two last one and then I'll run off the platform. Not the platform, but close my mic. So you also spoke about the calculation, the gross weight, right? But then you would end with saying you should know. Is it that BSJ helps you to calculate that? Because the truth is, I might just know how to make something. How do I know to calculate the can and all these other things? So is it that through the consultation with BSJ, they're able to help you to see what the weight is, the gross weight and the net weight?
I want to offer a recommendation that maybe as persons are doing product development, and I don't know if we have any of our colleagues from the Scientific Research Council here, but very often in product development, those questions may be answered, and usually in Jamaica, persons will seek out the SRC for that. So when a client comes to the BSG and to the chemistry branch or microbiology branch, usually we are expecting that they will have an understanding of their product, what has been in there, and then they're seeking some confirmation. We do know that not everybody necessarily has all of that information. And to the extent that we do the tests and a report is generated, then we will seek to guide them through that. But ideally, we suggest that in developing the product, that they engage with the Scientific Research Council or some other entity that can assist them in this process to help them in the product formulation. And then they would have a sense of how much of these nutrients are actually present. And then we can confirm that through the test that we undertake.
Okay, thank you. My final question now is, I know that a lot of what, well, can't say a lot, some of what BSJ guides client with is mostly to the local market. You were saying, I think it was Mr.
Richards?
Richards that said, okay, so you might have done the nutritional value or nutritional facts for Jamaica, but then if you want to export, then you'd have to do a new one. I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be better to just have the product done at the international standard so you don't incur two costs, because now you'd have to do one locally, and then when you're going to do the export, then you're going to have to do a new one. So I'm just wondering if it's something, because what I know of is that there are times when even the labels are certified by BSJ, but then you'd have to get a new label done if you're going to do in export international. So I'm just wondering if it's something that we can just do once and for all, instead of having the clients or the manufacturers having to do this twice.
So before Matthew and or Venice jumps in, just to say that in relation to labeling, and I'm just quickly going to say in terms of labeling, we actually do label assessment, and we will give an approval for the Jamaican market. As we are here in Jamaica, we are not necessarily now giving approvals for any overseas market, but persons would need to do their due diligence to determine what is required there. In terms of the nutrition facts panel, because it's not mandatory in Jamaica at this time, dependent on the country that you're exporting to, you could seek to have the information presented for that space so that it would be accessible here, useful here for our consumers, but at least you are going to be meeting the requirements for the country that you're going in. It is possible that persons may vary how they want to see the information in the various countries, and that is something that JAMPRO can assist you with. You can always reach out to the JAMPRO. There are several divisions that might be able to assist you with that, with your due diligence. Matthew, Venice, I don't know if you wanted to add to Anita's or the response in terms of nutrition facts panel for Jamaica as opposed to another country.
No, sir, I think you covered it for the most part.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Anita, for being so engaging and for asking us all these questions and challenging us on some things. Thank you through these questions. And we invite Nadine, who has been patiently waiting, and Vivian, we acknowledge you, and we will come to you right after Nadine.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, moderator. My question may not be directly related, but let me just ask it. Okay, so I have a specific interest, which is why I jumped on, and that's why I went to the BSJ to get clarification on testing if needed for castor oil. and labeling if needed for castor oil. External use. I was told by one party at BCJ unofficially, or I don't know if it was officially, that castor oil doesn't need testing for external use. I'm hoping I didn't get it wrong. But if it's food grade stuff, then it would need, the food testing and then labeling everything needs. Help me to understand, is there something special about castor oil? Does it need to be tested, not tested? Help me before going to the market.
All right, Matthew, Venice, who is going to take that question, is really on. What I can say to you in relation to, and I'm speaking to you not so much from a scientific perspective, but at this point, the Jamaican castor, we have several countries throughout the world branding themselves as Jamaican castor and therefore castor oil, which is not so. The particular compositions of the Jamaican castor is still has been under study for some time, and I do know that the Bureau of Standards Jamaica has been partnering with the University of the West Indies and possibly other academic institutions to determine what are these particular unique factors to Jamaica. If it is that we are going to be imbibing, if we are going to be ingesting any thing, whether it's a food item or pharmaceutical or something being offered as medicine, then there would be need for testing. If it's a topical thing, I am not quite sure where we are with that, and I would need to get some guidance. So if Dr. Really Dunkley is in the room and can jump in and respond to that, or Mr. Dwight Bremer, then we'll ask them to. But that is what I can say to you. At this time, we are still seeking to determine all the particular characteristics of the Jamaican castor so that we can standardize, if you will, when persons seek to have these items tested here or at any other laboratory in Jamaica. Matthew Venice, if you can offer an additional perspective and a scientific response, and I certainly would welcome
And I do
that.
have one other question, if you want to just ask it before.
Let me just see if they
Okay.
go ahead and ask a question, and then they can jump in and give you a
Question
comprehensive response.
the question I'm asking is really not a complaint, but something I'm hoping will get attended to. Clothespins. I used to host I used to host current affairs programs, and one of the issues that came up so much, and anybody just has to go in their laundry room and look at the clothespins. When I was a child, you'd use clothespins, and you have clothespins from you're born until you're 5, 6, and your parents add to it because they lose some of them, or maybe the children play with them and they go missing. I have bags and bags of clothespins that have just come apart, and I don't have the time to put them back together. And this has been ongoing for years now, many, many, many years. And I'm wondering to what extent this is something that is being red flagged, but those clothespins still come into the island, still being sold in the supermarkets. And I'm one very displeased customer, and I know there are many Jamaicans who have that problem. So I'm presenting the clothespin challenge to BSJ this morning, whether labeling or testing, but these people must not be allowed to bring in these substandards.
All right. So I thank you for that, Nadine. I know that some of our colleagues from the National Compliance and Regulatory Authority are online, and certainly we will also take note of it, and we will raise the issue in that space and ask them to what extent their monitoring can assist in this process. So we take note of that question or that concern, and then ask Matthew and Venice if they have an additional response in terms of castor and castor oil. So nothing beyond my response. So what we will seek to do, Nadine, is to make some checks with where we are now with castor oil, and testing for topical use as opposed for ingesting, and we will advise you.
And so do I need to have the labeling? That's the thing that, that's so.
No, if it is that
you
are going to be providing any item for sale, then the item would need to be properly labeled to say castor oil. If there is any additional ingredient, then that would also need to be included, because a consumer ought to only purchase an item based on what the information presented. So it
Right.
would require some labeling, the name of the product, the name of the manufacturer, supplier,
Yes.
details to how to contact this person. And
Okay.
certainly we can provide some other details on that because having registered, we have your contact information and we'll note it and we will make some checks on that. But certainly labeling, basic labeling would need to be applied to the product.
Thank you so much.
You're
Let's
most welcome. And thank you, Vivian, for waiting patiently. And we now take your question.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me. Thank you for the presentation. It was a productive session.
Thank you.
I did ask a question in the chat that I received no response to. It's a genuine question I need response to because I am in manufacturing and I have to pay every time I need a nutrition facts panel. When I change my ingredients, when I upgrade, when I downgrade, I need nutrition facts panel. So I'm generating a lot of nutrition facts panel and the cost is increasing. And
Right.
it increases your business cost. I know that you are here to promote the business of BSJ and the services that you offer. It is a part of what you do, but I'm asking, is there a legal requirement that the nutrition facts panel has to be generated through these scientific processes, or am I allowed to generate my own nutrition facts panel using
And
the
Matthew will take that question.
All right, thank you, Vivian. So, because it's not mandatory to have a fax panel here in Jamaica, you can actually generate it. I see where you're asking if you could use AI, but I wouldn't recommend that. What I would recommend though, that you use the SRC. They do offer calculation based generation of a nutrition facts panel. So they have a program that they would use. So you could actually go through them, and I think it would be a little cheaper.
So is there a software that I could buy, a legitimate software that I could buy?
Well, it would cost quite a bit. So I'm not sure if you'd want to do that, but you could check it out.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And just before, thank you, Vivian, for that. And just before we take Tanisha's question, just to indicate that I have shared in the chat a link to an evaluation form, and we are inviting persons to respond to the link. We thank you so very much for having come and for having shared, but we also want to hear from you. We did get some feedback, but we also want to hear from you some more to see how we can better serve you. Not only just talking about things that are of interest to us, but things that are of interest to both consumers and to the manufacturing sector. So please, we do invite you to click on the link. And just a reminder to all parties here who have been inquiring about the presentation, the session is being recorded. It will be uploaded to our website, and we will share some details on that. Tanisha, thank you for waiting, and please go ahead with your question.
Hi, everyone. So my question is, I'm trying to focus more on products that are suitable for kids as well as elderly persons in the society. So not so much a lot of added sugars or trans fats or any of those. What I'm trying to figure out is BSJ, or would it be BSJ or SRC that I go to kind of help me develop the servings to kind of represent a product that would be ideal for children without the additional ingredients, colorings, all of those things. Would I work with SRC to just create that standardized portion, or would I work with BSJ for that?
Based on the services that we offer, our recommendation to all of our own customers is that in relation to product formulation, the Scientific Research Council is the entity that we recommend. We do know that dependent on the nature of the product, the Jamaica Business Development Corporation may be able to assist some persons with some products, but the SRC has that mandate and will be able to assist. The Bureau of Standards Jamaica primarily is, well, at this point, while we facilitate in different ways to setting standards through testing and through calibration, this would be something we believe would be best handled by the Scientific Research Council, and we would encourage you to partner with them. And to the extent that you would need some support from us, then they would also guide you. The reality is that for those persons who are involved in manufacturing, particularly in food manufacturing, the Scientific Research Council, and if it is you have a chemistry background or persons with that background who can provide support in this regard, you can always engage with them dependent on your development, your research and development team. If you are doing it alone and you have a scientific background, then you might want to work with others and to determine that. And then when you come to us in relation to what's in this package, then we can provide the testing in that regard. I don't know. We often engage with the SRC. They're often on our activities. And so if they are here and they are willing to share details with you, and you could just respond, you could just contact them directly. Stacey Ann, thank you very much for being here and for engaging. Please go ahead. Please unmute.
Hi, morning. Can you hear me?
Hearing you clearly.
Okay, so I have a product where when I actually sent the product in to BSG, it was just a label on a pouch, right? I have changed it to printing the whole pouch. Do I still need to have BSG check the packaging? Because nothing has changed in terms
The
of the
product has not
ingredient.
changed.
Yeah,
And
it's just
the volume or the content size, that has not changed.
no, nothing has changed.
And your packaging, based on your research, will ensure the integrity of your product.
Yes.
Then if you have changed nothing else in relation to what you're putting into the product, I do not believe that you would need to do a reassessment of your label.
Okay,
Where you would
perfect.
need to do a reassessment of your label is if you have made any changes to the product in any way, shape, or form. If you have now, if you're going to vary the packaging size, then you would have to now make those changes and to ensure that they are consistent with what would be required. Of
And if
course,
and
so
probably
just
if I
before
add
we
an
do,
ingredient.
just before we have a range of standards, and so dependent on the product, you can always review the standard, be guided by the standard before making any submission for a label assessment. But continue with your question. Stacey, continue with your question.
Right. So I was asking if so if I actually added just one
If
ingredient
you
to the
have made
product itself.
any
Yeah, so
changes, then it would be
okay.
advisable for you to review your label, to have your label resubmitted for assessment.
Okay.
Would be advisable.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Stacey, and thank you for doing business with us. Are there any other questions? Are there any other comments? And certainly, again, let me just remind you and to encourage you to complete the evaluation form. We do like to hear from you. In fact, some of your recommendations have influenced us in doing this session. And so I'm going to ask you guys just to check the questions. Questions are in the chat above. So could we just check to see if there are some questions that we have not responded to? Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We're just going to double check and we're just going to see what other questions may be in the chat. Will it be possible to get a recording? We have said the recording is going to be uploaded to our website, And once it's uploaded, we will share with all of the participants the link to the website so that they can view it there. There might be some other questions, but they flow so quickly. Also, as a manufacturer, they already know how, or is that why is back of package facts not mandatory, but we are moving to front of package? No, Orion, I'm not quite sure of your quest, what exactly you're asking. What I can say is that nutritional information, we are moving, or recommendations are being made for the nutrition facts panel to be mandatory. We are not at that, the standard has not yet been changed. Standards in Jamaica, as in other parts of the world, are determined by consensus, which means that we have various parties at the table, including the manufacturer, the distributor, the consumer, persons from academia, those of us who are involved in testing and providing support. We are sitting at the table, and it requires persons agreeing. So as it is not yet mandatory, but you will recognize that more and more people are requesting, demanding, by choosing products that have nutrition facts panel. So the market is determining and saying to the industry players, get on board. And that is one way that consumers can indicate. You go to a gas station and you don't see the price of the petrol, you're going to drive past because they might have it jacked up and wait until you put in the gas. So it is for you as a consumer to help make that a reality by the choices we make. I hope that helps. I'm just checking through to see if there are other questions. Matthew and Venice, can you also check to see if the questions, or there's a question re-percentage Kwesi was asking. I don't know if this was responded. It was responded to? All right, so we answered that. Isaac, are there any other questions that you particularly want to draw our attention to? Octagon, and Orion was speaking to. No, there are different players, Orion. Let me just continue. And so there are some persons, certainly I know, and I don't know if any of our partners from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica or other entities who are advocating for the octagonal warning panels. There are some persons who are pushing that, but there are some persons in industry who are against that. And so what is required is consensus, as I said, in terms of standards. It has worked in some countries, and some countries, some stakeholders feel it would work here, while others feel it won't. Again, as consumers, ultimately we make a choice about what we put in our bodies, and this is where the power of the consumer comes to play. All right, so I hope that I have given you an adequate response in that regard. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thanks, but we're not quite finished. Let me just seek to wrap up formally. We thank both Venice and Matthew for their presentations. Thank all of you for your active participation and your thoughtful, insightful questions. Today's session reminded us that reading the nutrition facts panel isn't just about numbers. It's about numbers, yes, we have to do some working out, but it's about making informed choices for our health, for our well-being, and for the well-being, health and well-being of our children and the elderly we have in our care. It's about encouraging greater transparency in the food industry. And we thank you for having been with us here today. We invite you to stay connected with the Bureau of Standards Jamaica through our website and social media pages, bsj.org.jm, bsj.org.jm, and on our social media pages, Standards Jamaica for Instagram and for X, formerly Twitter, and Bureau of Standards Jamaica on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. To learn more about upcoming awareness sessions, training opportunities, job opportunities, information generally that can assist you. Again, a big thank you to our presenters, Ms. Venice James and Mr. Matthew Fitzgerald Richards. Let me also acknowledge Javon Anderson and Rayleigh Dunkley for their assistance with this presentation, to Kimo McCullough and the Communication Customer Service Branch. Thanks to you all. On behalf of the BSJ, thanks for joining us. And remember, when you read the label, you make better choices. Have a wonderful day, everyone. As we have said, we will share the presentation and with you all. It's not mandatory because the decision has not yet been made, Kimberly, but at some point with consumer dialogue and with the consensus, hopefully it will be there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Please complete the evaluation form as you go, and we will share it again with you all. And as we have said, the presentation will be uploaded to our website, and you will have it to review and to support. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Venice. Great job, guys.
That's what the gentleman name.